Hi, welcome to Coffee and Pearls, Wisdom and Motivation for Catholic Moms. I'm Sterling, and today we're talking about the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I actually didn't read this physical book. I listened to it as an audio book on a road trip, and it was great because Simon reads the book himself, and he has this great British accent, so he makes everything in the book sound super intelligent and wonderful. But this is one of my favorite books, and it absolutely made sense to start with this book as my very first because I think it's one of the most important questions that we can ask ourselves as moms, which is to start with why. Why do we do any of the things that we do? And so the first quote that I want to pull out of his book and the first idea is, the more organizations and people who learn to start with why, the more people there will be who wake up feeling fulfilled by the work that they do. And now the mom translation of this is, the more a mom learns to start with why, the more she and her family will wake up feeling fulfilled by the work that they do. And so the way that this can apply to your life is very simple. And rarely am I going to tell you what to do, but today I'm going to. I think that everyone should have the same goal. We should all have the same why, actually. And our why is to get our children into heaven. And that is what we do as moms. That is the purpose of marriage, that we work on helping our spouse get into heaven. And as parents, we work on getting our children into heaven. Everything should start there. And I think a lot of you might even agree with that point and go, yeah, that is what we're supposed to do. But it gets really confusing about how to apply that to our daily life. Like, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? Should I sign my kid up for soccer practice? How old should my teenager be when I give him a cell phone? Right? These are difficult questions to ask and to answer based on wanting to get them into heaven. So there's a disconnect there. But I think that we can actually make sense of those questions and answer them, especially when we just slow down a little bit and we think about our why. So let's say that you're running around on Sunday, you've got baseball practice, and you're trying to decide, do we let our kid play baseball even though practice is happening on Sundays or games are happening on Sundays and our family can't even go to Mass at the same time, and it's really starting to be something difficult for us. Now, if you step back a little bit and you say, well, if the purpose of my being a parent is to get my child into heaven, what is the best decision to make? Now, I'm not actually saying that the obvious answer is to stop playing baseball because things happen on Sunday and it's making it difficult for your family to go to Mass, but instead to understand why you signed your child up for baseball in the first place. Now, I'm a huge fan of teaching children self-discipline. I think it's really important that children learn self-discipline, and one of the best ways to do that is enrolling them in sports and things like piano or gymnastics or anything that's difficult and where they really have to push through something that they're not good at, that's not easy, and learn how to do it. And this is really important for their salvation because at some point our children are going to leave our house. And they get to choose whether they're going to be Catholic or not once they leave our house. And if we haven't taught them how to be tough, if we haven't taught them how to push through difficult situations, it's going to make it really easy for them to fall away and not be Christians anymore. And that is one of the biggest values I find in some of these extracurricular activities. But if you and your husband haven't sat down and had that conversation and aligned the sports activity with your why of how this applies to getting your kid into heaven, then maybe piano practice at home is starting to be a little rough, and your kid starts whining about not wanting to play, and it's going to be pretty easy to give in and say, well, maybe piano's just not your thing, right? And to be honest, maybe the piano isn't their thing, but maybe they're just frustrated because it got hard, and they don't know how to push through. And what I'm suggesting is in that moment, think about maybe pushing them, teaching them that discipline, because the true gift that you're giving them is to be strong when they get out there in the world. And that is what we're supposed to be doing. And so get with your husband, sit down, and talk about your why, or reiterate your why if you've already had that conversation and say, the purpose of marriage and the purpose of being parents is that we all get to heaven. We're fighting for eternity here, okay? And so as we're making these decisions, we should frame them like that. Why is this important? You know, the other day I was freaking out because I just had this baby, and you're supposed to get your newborn photos within the first 10 days of having a baby, right? And I wanted these photos so badly. And I was running around like a crazy person and asking my husband to get felt from Joann's, and I was pinning things on Pinterest, trying to figure out the perfect shot. And I was really stressing out about this. And then I stopped and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm making myself crazy. I'm making my husband crazy. He doesn't even get the whole point of newborn pictures anyway. And this isn't really helping anyone. And even though I think newborn pictures are beautiful and amazing, I was sacrificing a lot of harmony in my family for something that isn't going to help any of us get to heaven at all. And what was amazing is as soon as that thought occurred to me, my stress level went down. I realized actually it's just not that important to me. And I decided I kind of wanted to cuddle with my baby a little bit more. And then I could take 3-month pictures of her and I would still love them. And that is exactly what Simon is talking about. Understanding your why makes it crystal clear what you should and shouldn't be spending your time on. So that brings me to the second point. There are only 2 ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. And Sinek talks about how you can manipulate customers to buy your products by dropping the price or using fear or peer pressure, but he explains that manipulations don't breed loyalty. In fact, over time, they cost you more and more. They increase the stress for both the buyer and the seller, and I think that this is absolutely true for parenting as well, right? We can either manipulate our children into doing things, and there's a lot of ways that we all do that, or we can inspire them to do things. And one of the ways that I think we can clarify this with our children is by sitting down with them and explaining the mission of our family. And so all of you should work on having a family mission statement. It's an awesome exercise to go through. In fact, there's a book that you can check out. It's The Mission of the Catholic Family on the Pathway to Heaven. I'll include a link in that below. And this book will just walk you through how to create a mission statement for your own family. And so when you go over that with your kids, it helps them to feel like they're really part of something. And instead of just kind of begrudgingly going through their work and doing what you tell them to, they feel inspired to be part of something. And kids just want respect. And one of the ways that I respect my children is by holding them to a high standard and saying, I know that you can do this, and you need to do this because you're part of this family unit. And so having that mission statement and getting some buy-in from your kids is a great way to accomplish that. And there's an awesome book that talks about how to incorporate this concept with disciplining your kids. And the title of that book is Say Goodbye to Whining, Complaining, and Bad Attitudes in You and Your Kids. And what I love about this book is it talks about the concept of honor. And it says that all of our families should have a base of honoring each other. The parents should honor their children, children should honor their parents, and siblings should honor each other. And so what it does is it kind of reframes every argument or every conversation that happens and says, you know, we should really be doing this honoring each other. We each have a role to play, things to clean, things to pick up, and we do that as a way of honoring each other. And I think that that is what Simon is talking about with this concept of, you know, creating loyalty in our family. Instead of just using manipulations like, oh, you're not going to get any TV time if you don't pick up your room, explaining that, you know, God gave us all of the things that we have, and we need to be good stewards of them, and we need to take care of everything in our house for each other. And that is such a different way of talking about those issues that it inspires our kids a lot more. Now, I'm not saying that your 10-year-old is still going to whine about not picking up his room, but what you're doing is you're planting seeds in his mind about how a family works. And we're doing this again so that when they leave the house, these are the things that they remember. These are the systems that they have in place and the things that they want to continue as they leave the house. All right, third point of the book that I really liked. When you compete against everyone else, no one else will help you. But when you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. What if we showed up to work every day to be better than ourselves, for no other reason than because we want to leave the organization in a better state than we found it? Now, moms, I know I don't even need to translate that for you, okay? Because we all struggle with this. We're comparing ourselves to Susie sews a lot down the street, right? Or Linda bakes all the time perfect muffins, okay? And we look at them and we say, oh, I wish I could do that. Where does she find the time to do that? And we're playing this game of comparing each other all the time. And nobody wins. We all lose. Because there's a little bit of resentment that happens when we do that. And we feel bad about ourselves. And it's not building up our friendships. And instead, what if we just compared ourselves to our previous selves, right? And I do this sometimes. I get caught up in what I want to do and my goals and how I wish I was better than I was. And I wish I was hitting those goals more. But instead, I'll stop and go, what was I like 2 years ago? What was I like 5 years ago, right? And I think about how much my husband and I have grown in that time, because marriage really forces you to grow. And I think about what a better parent I am. I'm more calm. I'm more kind. I have better systems in place. And I see that progress, and all of a sudden it makes me feel inspired, because I know that 2 years from now, I'm going to be looking at myself today thinking, wow, I've grown so much. And so I think that his point of not comparing ourselves with others, and of course he means businesses, but for us, not comparing ourselves to each other, but instead comparing ourselves to ourselves. And using that as a motivation to say, how can I be a better me? And I love when Matthew Kelly talks about this concept. I'm a huge Matthew Kelly fan, and he talks about how our purpose here on earth, what Jesus wants us to do, is to become the best version of ourselves. And that's what we should be doing all the time. So to wrap up, the 3 things that I really liked the most about Simon Sinek's Start With Why was the first point, start with why. Know why you're doing what you're doing every day as a family. 2, influence your family by inspiring them instead of manipulating them. You're going to get the best long-term results that way. And the third point, don't compete against your friends. Strive to be better than you were yesterday. Strive to become the best version of yourself. I highly recommend that book. It was fabulous. I'm going to put these notes up on my website for you to enjoy them. Thank you for being a part of Coffee and Pearls. Have a blessed day.